Namaste. Welcome to the Happy Jack Yoga podcast. We're so honored to be here in this conversation with all of you. I'm Happy Jack, live from Harvard Innovation Lab in Boston, Massachusetts, and here with our fearless co-leader, the one and only.
Happy Hanna with happy little Coco snoring next to me.
Yeah, he's a cozy little guy. Hanging out with him over the spring break last week. And if anybody hears any snoring on the podcast, it's not me, it's not Hanna, that's definitely Coco. But we're so happy to be here. We got a bunch of beautiful souls joining us live as always. And of course, we got Yogi Saga's in the car on the road. We got Yogis having breakfast. It's just beautiful to be able to connect here in this way. And we got
Well, now Happy Jack's
topics. And
connection,
then,
your connection went off.
oh, did my connection go? Well, I'm back now. We got lots of great topics, and then also a hot seat happening later on as well. So I guess the first thing, really on my mind, just got back here to Boston, and I think about this past week on spring break, and really one of the magic moments. You missed it, Hannah. But one of my magic moments this past week was we had a big family hockey game. So we rented the ice at the local arena, and like me, my parents, my brother, my sister, their husband, wife, and the five nephews, and we just split it up 5-on-5 and had this big hockey game. And what was fun, the older nephews, so the teenagers, they were like, "Oh yeah, you can't keep up with us, Uncle Jack. We're gonna kick your butt." So it's like I made a mental note of that, and yep, I smoked them. They had no chance. They under what's the word? I don't know. They thought they were going to be able to skate circles around me, but that didn't happen. But it was a lot of fun. And then the little guys, of course, letting the little nephews skate around, and just I feel like, coming together and having some fun. As you know, Hanna, like that's one of the things I'm working on, bringing more joy, bringing more fun, a little bit less work, a little bit more play. And so I was really pleased that we did that. And now I think the opportunity is to create more events like this, to be able to just have fun, get playful.
And how did the surprise element go? Because you organize it as a surprise for the nephews. So there's five boys
Yeah.
who didn't know that they were going to meet their uncle for an ice hockey game.
Yeah, or their cousins. They thought because they all play hockey, organized minor hockey. They all thought they were going to a practice. So their parents told them like, "Hey, come on, get your gear. We're going into town. We're going to a practice." So they're probably just thinking like, "Oh, it's just another practice." But then it was like they showed up there, dressing room number 4, Boken, and it's like, "Oh, well, that's us."
And
And
even
we just
before that, when we met your brother on the driving or the parking lot, he was like, "Hey guys, like, are you guys doing a yoga class after this practice?" Like your
yeah.
brother was like totally into it still.
He's totally playing along. Yeah, it's well, exactly. It's like whenever we can create those little surprises, creating surprises for family, for loved ones. We love to do that at retreats. Hanna, whether we're in India or Mexico, I gotta say, I didn't plan to share this, but jumping around, we often at retreat create magic moment experiences. A couple of the ones that really stand out to me was that time in Finland. I don't know if Saga was at this one. Let
I
us know
She
if you
was.
were.
I have a
Was
picture of
she?
it.
Okay.
Yes.
This was the breakthrough immersion. And we took all the yogis to this rally car track. And so I'm looking to see if Saga remembers this one. And so we went to yeah, she does. Went to the rally car track, and we went in one at a time with a professional driver, and they go so fast around this track. And it was just like, and the
There's
whole
like
theme.
trees everywhere, and the car goes like super fast, like faster than I've ever been inside a car. It goes like a rocket, and it looks like it's gonna for sure hit the tree that's on my side. It
Yeah.
just like touches by, but doesn't touch the tree quite. It's
It it
very
feels
exciting
it
for
feels
the
like
nervous system.
it feels like you're defying the laws of physics. Like it
Yeah.
feels for sure like there's no way you're going to make the corner. But the theme of that program was the breakthrough immersion, was stepping out of our comfort zone. the breakthrough. And then another great actual magic moment was when we were doing one of our Mexico retreats, the 2017 one, and we spontaneously decided to have our marriage. We got married on the beach in Mexico, and so the students, they thought they were coming out for some like sunset, yoga practice.
Pranayama breathing setup
Exactly.
in a
And then they
circle.
and then they come out like, whoops, hey, guess what? You're at a wedding.
Because
Um,
we were like dressed in white and I had flowers, and then there was a shaman who did the actual ritual, and
yeah.
it turned into a ceremony.
Yeah, and it is those special, whether it's the sweat lodge ceremonies that we do, or different things we've done in India and Bali, finding ways to create those magic moments. And I guess that's what I was doing last week with the spring break, the hockey game. It's like, try something different, something surprise, bringing people together. And as yoga teacher and as yogis, there's something to be said about like consistency and structure and building that discipline. But then there's something to be said for spontaneity and mixing it up and like new environments and new experiences. And I guess that's the spice of life, as they say.
Yeah, and then the surprise element kind of brings the energy up. Everybody's so fully present in the moment versus if we had said it in advance, if you had
Mhm.
told your nephews and or in those yoga magic moments that we created in the different programs in the past, if we had told them in advance, it would have been a different experience. Whereas now
Yeah.
it's I think it makes everyone who's participant really present in the moment, which is where the thrill is. It is in the moment, in
Mm.
right now, this breath, this opportunity, you know,
Hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
exciting.
It's so exciting. Yeah, that's what it's all about. And also, tying this into one of the teachings that we wanted to share today. There's a great story. Many of you will have heard of Bruce Lee, incredible martial artist. And he was interviewed one time. And this is way, but this is several decades ago. And the interviewer was saying to Bruce Lee, he was going to be getting put up against this fighter. And the interviewer's like, "Hey man, are you scared? Like this guy, this is before MMA, which is mixed martial arts. So this is before people practiced multiple martial arts. And so this interviewer was saying to Bruce Lee, this guy that you're going to be fighting, he knows 10,000 different kicks, like as though that's some scary thing. And Bruce Lee just looked the interviewer right in the eye and said, "I do not fear the man who knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who practiced one kick 10,000 times." And it's just like, boom. So that's also the value of consistency and practice. And that's why we get on our yoga mat day in and day out. This morning, 4 a.m., Brandon and I, yoga mats out, sun salutation A's, sun salutation B's, flip dog, side plank, crescent lunge, half pigeon, full wheel, shavasana. Boom. And just like a 20-minute flow like that, and doing those day in, day out, 10,000 times, right? Like that's the Beatles. There's so many examples, right? Like they performed in all these different places, and then they really mastered their craft. So I love that idea. What do you think, Hanna, of that idea, the Bruce Lee quote of 10,000 times?
I think that we can find that wisdom in kind of everywhere. Like I think about like building up a business or
Mm.
all of that, like the consistency of doing something repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly is what builds things up.
Yeah. That's the beauty, I feel like, of doing this podcast. Like I feel like although I still don't feel 100%, I've not mastered it in any way. I feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more sure of myself, a little bit more confidence to try something new or get creative or spontaneous from that repetition. And I feel like, the other thing, as we know, as yogis and yoga teachers, the consistent yoga practice and pranayama and meditation, it prepares us for in life when things don't go as planned. And just I was traveling back from spring break, Everything was going smoothly. My flight landed in Boston right on time, 7 p.m. Boom, which is great because my bedtime is 7:30. So it's just like, yep, land, get home, shower, in bed. But then we landed, and it was one of those deals where the plane sat on the runway for an hour. So from 7 p.m. till 8 p.m., we just sat there. And I know in the past, I've seen myself in the past get frustrated, not outwardly. I would never say something, to the airline employees, but like just feeling frustrated, annoyed, focusing on the fact that, oh, I'm not going to get enough sleep tonight, and that's going to impact my day tomorrow, and just go down that rabbit hole. But I feel like from these practices of mantra and meditation and yoga, I caught myself right away. And it's like, hey, okay, I'm going to be sitting here for a while. Get out my books. So I did it all. I got so much reading done that, like, by the end of that hour, I was so full of gratitude. It's like all this homework that I didn't get done over spring break. It's like I was getting caught up while sitting on an airplane. And that wasn't the case for others around me. Understandably so. I could see others around me getting annoyed, right? Because they had plans as well. In fact, there was one girl who was like just right in front of me, but the opposite side of the aisle. And I could see her phone. I couldn't read what she was writing. But like when we were taking off, she was one of those sending all these messages that were just all heart, heart, heart emoji. Oh, so much love. I miss you. I love you. And, that's what she was saying on the way, as we were taking off. But I'll tell you what, after an hour of sitting on the runway, I could just see there was no more heart emojis. That there was none of that going on anymore with whoever she was messaging, her husband or something. And and I feel like this is why we practice the one kick 10,000 times, that one mantra 10,000 times, that one sun salutation, that one breathing practice, pranayama practice. And then it prepares us for these moments.
Yeah. And also, it's interesting to be in the moment and notice maybe in that situation, sometimes you can see how not everybody has the self-soothing tools, so to say, to regulate when there is stress, because
Mhm.
everybody's anxious to get off the plane, that's for sure. But you can see so clearly um, how people respond to that stress.
Mhm.
It's kind of an interesting experiment, and also how you responded. Like first, I'm sure there was stress, and then you were able to self-soothe, and then you were able to do your reading instead, and then that all made sense to you. But it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you talked about having the tools. In fact, maybe now is a good moment to pivot, Hanna. You were going to share an update on what you're navigating this month, and this is aligned with things not certainly not going as planned. At a time when you have these tools now, you didn't have these yogic tools perhaps then. Would you share?
Yeah, so March is the month when my husband died. Tomorrow is the day. And, even if 17 years have passed, that only means to me that I can talk about it without crying, or maybe I will cry, but not this. Like in the past, it was like a guaranteed that flooding of emotions were guaranteed if I touched the topic. But what I've noticed over the years, even before it is the actual death date, somehow it's like my body is wired in, like it's not even conscious or rational, but I can get really kind of like, I get all kinds of symptoms of, I would say, like of lethargy and sadness and like overwhelm and general anxiety. Like if there's other issues, like now I had to write some papers. So during your March break, there were days where I just could not get out of bed because I was crying and overwhelmed and dysfunctional.
Mhm.
And even though I know all the yoga tools, they the intensity of this experience is so big that it doesn't help. what helps me is the years of therapy, which means that I have the self insight that I notice, and then I don't beat myself up and I don't demand anything from myself. Like on that hockey day, the plan was that I was going to come too, not to be part of the hockey game because I'm not able to play
Yeah,
hockey.
yeah. You totally would have been part of the
I
hockey
was
game. We were
planning to like skate,
no,
like
no.
this with my,
You were gonna be the goalie. That's what you were gonna be.
then I wouldn't have teeth left. But like that was the plan and even the same morning I knew I was wiped out. Like it's like a tsunami that comes out of nowhere and and makes me not, let's say, able to do anything. And then I notice in my chest I can't breathe deeply. I can't do yoga. Like I can't really change the state. So then I surrender to it. And that's something I've learned in therapy over years, that to notice that this is what's happening. And I noticed that anxiety, if there's other demands like the writing the paper or having to do something that I don't have the energy for. And then like it's interesting because I'm always surprised by it. And I'm like, what's up? Like I gotta get up and go skating or whatever it is. And then I notice that I'm unable. And it's almost like, like this kind of thing. I wonder if the emotions and the processing of them is almost like an alchemy. Like it will, if you lose someone, somebody dies, they will be dead forever. Like that's just a hard fact. And only because time passes, it doesn't mean that they came back or that it's okay now that they died. Like it's unfortunately, it's something that will have a lifelong impact. And not every year am I wiped out like this. And I recognize it because in the past, I've spent weeks and months in states like this, dysfunctional. Like I could muster myself and pull myself together to feed the kids and get them home from school and like the basic survival things. Like all my energy went to that. And then the rest of the time, I just had to rest. Like if I had, I don't know, some like physical symptoms, because I did. And that was again a surprise to me that it happened. And then I had to not come because I just couldn't handle the physical. Like the reason why I couldn't come was because I couldn't handle the carrying stuff into the hockey arena, going into a break, putting clothes on, taking clothes off. Like even if I would have enjoyed the actual process and watching you all and being with people who care about me, but I was just too like sensitive, too teary-eyed, like too wiped out. So even I tried, like I drove you there and I was thinking like I can manage, and then in that mix I was just like I don't have, it's like my battery's out. I don't have what it takes to walk my feet over there. And I was grateful that you would not insist on that. And then I went home to rest.
Nice. And you were just saying how, yeah, it's important to not, to honor ourselves, essentially. That's what was right for you, Hanna, like in that moment, was to give yourself that space. And we missed you in the hockey, but it was important that you honored that. So I appreciate you sharing that. Tomorrow's the day, and this is it's a big week, it's a big month, and yet here you are, sharing courageously. You made it. Your hair is more brushed than I remember that day. I remember that day your hair was not so brushed, so you're in a better space. Love it.
I brushed my hair. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, it's thank you for sharing that. And it's just that reminder for us as yogis and as yoga teachers, just appreciating that. I mean, these are the kind of things that all of us in we've already navigated, or things that we will navigate or we may navigate. And the beautiful thing to understand is we're not here to fix anything, or because we can't, or change anything, but simply holding the space. That's what we get to do with our students, you know. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's funny, we were joking last week. We met the team, myself, Kristen and Hanna. We met, and we were kind of joking last week, Hanna, how you've been going through this empty nest syndrome, and that's been challenging with your boys going away. I've left to go off to school. And Kristen is kind of the opposite. She was saying, I've got too many birds in the nest, because she had a whole bunch of family staying with her. And it's like, it's about finding that right balance for each of us, and not feeling completely isolated, but at the same time not feeling overwhelmed and feeling like there's too many people who are there. But really finding that what feels right for us. You agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those of us who are in our lives now, it's important to be able to have these meaningful conversations. Like, we were on our team call yesterday, Hanna, we were sharing like the most important, probably the one of the most important outcomes from the spring break was when you were driving me back to the airport, and we got to have a real meaningful conversation, right? Which started out with a little bit of conflict and butting heads and not being aligned. And the easy thing would have been to do would be to just, flight and just like, just create space. But like, we stuck to it, and we stayed in the conversation. We had the difficult conversation, and got into integrity, and acknowledged, for myself, acknowledged my shortcomings, acknowledged where I've been out of integrity, where I haven't been my best self. And I feel like just through that sharing, and it in your words, like it cleared the energy. It creates trust. It creates a level of trust when we can own up to our shortcomings. And it's not about criticizing ourselves, but it's about acknowledging where we haven't been our best, simply to regain that trust with people who are important in our life. And I think that, like, this is like the most important work that we can do, more so than because we're going to rebrand Happy Jack Yoga, or not really rebrand, but really help find our voice. What does it mean, the two of us together here? And but that's got to come from us being connected and on the same page, and having that strong trust.
Yeah, and it's like an integrity conversation again that kind of saves our relationship,
Mhm.
and and sets us up for success in terms of feeling that we're both um, co-creating. And because if there is not integrity, then we are dysfunctional, and we bicker, and there's not full on commitment to our mission and to each other. And because of old resentments, we were just naming them, like, this, you did this, I did this, that's how it felt, that's how it landed. Not to criticize, not to say that something is somebody's fault. And these are things we both know about, right? Like, oh, this happened and that happened. But just now it felt like that the fact that we were able to name it, then that clears it. Then we are both in agreement. We both say we're sorry, and that we will do better, and we will rectify what can be rectified. And then we both can trust each other and say, yes, you've got my back, and I've always got your back. And then we can, because otherwise, every time there's a disagreement, all of that uncleared resentments will show up. And
Mhm.
and you ask me the simplest thing and I'll explode, because I'm still carrying the old stuff, and I don't want to carry it. I have no interest in, that's not on my to-do list. That's not how I intend to exist in the world. So I was also very grateful that we were able to do that, and that you were willing to have those conversations, even if it's hard,
Mhm.
and also say what like, acknowledge things and say what you think. And then it's like a new relationship. It's like a clean slate where there's trust, and there's nothing from the past that we're carrying that would be harmful for what we're trying to do and wanting to do. Because we, of course, we could, like, typically, if we didn't have the tools of integrity and maybe a bigger perspective, we could say, okay, let's separate then. Like, that's, of course, it always comes up as well. Like, okay, so what? Are you going to take over? Or am I going to take over? Like, all of the childish things of, like, like anger and but you, but no, but you, like that. But now it feels like that's that's obviously not what we want, because there's so much more possible in us being together in a great partnership for the sake of Happy Jack Yoga as friends. And that, as you say, it's the most important relationship to take care of if we want to keep co-creating, but we wouldn't be able to if we had the like the typical reactions of like protecting oneself and only looking to the short term satisfaction of a fight. Then we would, like, okay, let's separate, let's do something about this, let's sell the company, buy the company, or whatever, like things like that. But it feels so good to not have to do that out of anger or old things, or for being kind of small minded and, in fact, hanging on to old stories that don't even exist anymore, especially since they've been cleared up. It feels so good. It's just like any emotion, any negativity. When you can name it, something magical happens. It's like you touch the core of that emotion or that experience you're having. If you're able to somehow give it some sort of word or expression, and you find the truth of what you are thinking or feeling, then it's like energy gets released. It's almost like a mini enlightenment. Just the fact that it's been named, acknowledged, that's the processing of our feelings. Then it's released, and then there's space for something new, an insight, or another one of those 10,000 kicks.
Yeah, and it's like, I just feel way more inspired to co-create and to collaborate and do the things when we are aligned. Because when we're not, when there's a conflict and we're holding out resentment, it's like, well, I'm going to do this. So, since you're not doing that, well, this is what I'm going to do. And it's just like, it just doesn't feel good. It's childish. It's like a teenager temper tantrum.
Yeah.
Or, we all do it in different circumstances, but it doesn't, even if we think that, like, hey, I'm right, you're wrong, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take care of myself, like, even that doesn't feel good, and it doesn't lead to the best results. Like, it's always the best experience, the best vibe, the best impact for our community, the best personal experience has always been, through alignment, through integrity, through when that space is clear and that trust is there.
And both have to be able to give. Then we both have to be able to be generous. And maybe it's not in the moment of sometimes it can be difficult to be generous when there's resentment or anger or hurt. So then sometimes I will say, you will say, like, we might not be in the right space to discuss right now because we're hurt or having a teenager temper tantrum. And somehow, because of the time we had, the deadline of you hopping onto the plane, we had to speed up the process, and you were able to regulate, and that helped me not be mad. Even if I didn't trust you. I thought you're just being calm because of whatever technique. And then you kept at it. You were being kind and flexible. And then I was able to express myself, and you were able to hear me. And then we were both able to find solutions. Like, we were able to, in a short time, turn the aggressivity of a fight into something expansive for both of us. But that was because we were both willing then. You know, I was willing to let go of my resentments and whatever, and you were able to hear them without feeling criticized. And then we both were able to grow, and what we do and what we want to do is able to grow because we're both in it. I think that's always been our strength. When you and I, like you said, when we are in alignment, we can make magic happen. And everyone can. It's not like you and I have some special skills, but we just seem to be, kind of fulfilling each other in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when, my experience was that's when like the inspiration came. Like as soon as that conversation and everything was like, okay, whoa, we feel good about this now. Now it's like now both of our minds and hearts are together on, hey, here's where we can focus. Here's what we get to do next. Here's our priority. How can we grow and help even more yogis? And it's like all of the ideas and the inspiration. And already this week, we got so many new exciting things in creation right now. Um, and it's all happening from that, like really stems from that conversation. And I think the importance we can all take away from this is understanding what is the way for us to have those meaningful conversations, right? We know that therapy is one medium. Because Hanna, you and I were one thing we recognized last week, because right now we both have big, huge academic papers done. And we understand the purpose of writing an academic paper. It's to integrate all of that we've been reading and studying and discussing in class. But you and I, I'll speak for myself, have this resistance to writing academic paper. Like for me, it's just not fun. But I got a big one due next week. And what we kind of got to was the way and it doesn't mean that we're not good at integrating what we learn, but the way that we best integrate that is like through a podcast, being able to have a meaningful conversation on a platform like this, or one-on-one like we did last week, or in our Sunday Certs.
Applying what we learn by teaching it or talking about it or sharing, that's how we integrate
Yeah.
what we learned. Whereas in the academia, it's more like you're supposed to interact with the content by writing about it and presenting it in a very strict certain way. And yes,
Mhm.
it's efficient, but it's a very old way of processing information. So I hope that will not be the future of academia. I hope they reinvent the wheel at some point.
Yeah. And it's like exactly, it has a purpose, and it probably does work for some people. Maybe for some people that is their best way to integrate. And so that's in a way one end of the spectrum, like this big, 20-page paper that's all big words that I don't even know. But then it makes me think again here. I'm jumping around maybe, but it makes me think again when I was sitting on that airplane flying from Toronto back to Boston, and that girl in front of me who I could see her phone and all the heart emojis before the flight, no more emojis when the flight was delayed. But I was just observing her use Instagram, and actually a couple different people around me, the way they do Instagram. I'm not sure if this is how everybody does it, but like I was just watching her, like she was like on stories and just like tapping through all the stories, tap, 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 tap. And now there's somebody doing a cooking thing, and now somebody's doing a workout thing, and now somebody's doing a nature thing, and just like tapping through the stories. And it blew my mind. It made me think like, this is crazy. Is this what people do? Like, I'm curious, like, Hanna, is this what you do? Is this what people do? Because we're just being totally, just falling into the algorithm. And it's just like, I wouldn't want to just let Facebook or Instagram dictate what it is I'm going to consume. For me, I guess for me, if I go on Instagram, well, and I want something inspiring, I'm going to look up Saga Yoga, and I'm going to see some, inspiring content there. Or I'm going to go to Tony Robbins. Or if I want something funny, I'm going to go to Kevin Hart. Or, like, I guess what I do, and I'm not saying I'm better or right, but I use it like as a tool. If I'm looking for something, I'll go there, or it's like, oh, I want to know about this podcast, or I want to know, is this person going to do a yoga class? And I go and look for it. I don't just scroll or tap through stories. I guess that just blew my mind seeing this girl tap through because it's just totally random, like all those story balls on the top. Like I don't want to look at all those people. So I guess I was just blown away. Is this normal or was this like an exception?
I don't know what's normal, but like I'm more like you that I'll look up um, some people that I want to know what they do or that I feel like is somehow inspiring. But like when I see my kids, how they use their phones, even. So now Axel will turn 20 in 5 days, and Edis is 22. But I know more about Axel than Edis because I see Axel more with his phone. And like the way he scrolls through anything, it goes so fast. Like I get dizzy just watching how fast the phone move, like the stuff moves on the phone. And I could imagine that like the stories, like it's not like young people, I think, spend a lot of time looking at each picture in a story. Like it seems
Mm.
quite fast. But I can't, like I can't even look at his computer screen. If I tell him like, oh, can you Google this? Like I go like this dinosaur pace. And I look at his screen and then he Googles it and then he scrolls and then he clicks. And like the time it takes him to evaluate the screen is like milliseconds. So I can't even watch it. I'd have to look away and wait till he found what we're looking for because I get unwell from the movements. Like I think people use these apps kind of efficiently, but I don't know.
Yeah, so I get no criticism to those out
Oh.
there who I guess everybody has, uses it in different ways. And I guess the idea is if we're only following things that are inspiring, and that's why I've been unfollowing so
Mhm.
much stuff. I literally I only want like spiritual stuff or like our yoga community or like a really select few. So whenever stuff pops up, like I unfollow it. No disrespect, but I at least that way there's only good stuff. But really, no criticism, no judgment out there because we're all on our journey, doing the best we can. I see some good conversation here in the chat with Yada and Brandon and others. But let's in the essence of time, Hanna, let's shift to the hot seat. It's been a few weeks. I'm dying to be on the hot seat, and I hope that you can like just catch me right off guard and knock me off my chair. Except I'm standing. I found a standing desk.
Yeah. Okay. The first question I have for you, what is it that you're most grateful for about yourself? Like
What
your
am I most?
personality, your
Yeah,
way of being in the world.
I feel I'll tell you what immediately came to my heart, is that I'm grateful that with the maturity, now being turning 43 this year, 44 this year, actually, I'm grateful for the maturity to do what feels right for me and not try to please others. I was on the phone yesterday, Hanna, with my other favorite ex-wife. I'm teasing. My first wife. We were on the phone call for like half an hour, and we got to catch up. And same thing, Hanna. We got to clear the energy. I think I learned from you on Sunday and was able to like, both of us were able to clear some energy and let some things go. And what I was able to explain essentially is actually I'm not so available. I'm not so accessible. Like I think she would want to, for me to just be more available, to take a phone call because we still consider each other family, just like you and I consider each other family. We still love each other. And the reality is we have a limited amount of time and how we're going to spend it. And every time I say yes to something, I'm saying no to something else. And right now I'm saying yes to studying at Harvard Divinity School. And I'm saying yes to co-creating Happy Jack Yoga with you. I'm saying yes to everything that this community involves. And so that what that means is having to say no to some other things. And I feel like, and I explained this to Mel in a way that she understood it and she got it. And she actually said, well, thank you for explaining it in this way. Now I'm not going to feel like you're ignoring me or you don't want to talk to me or you're, whatever. Now I understand that it's like your schedule is full and this is how you're choosing to spend your time. And it's, and also just realizing there's a lot of people in my life that I'm disappointing in a way because I have to say no to them. I have to do things that they wouldn't want me to do. I'm gonna spend half of my summer vacation in India, right? That means that's like 2 months I could be with my parents and my brother and my sister and my nephews. And I'm going to be living with a bunch of monks in India. And there's going to be people who who don't even know this yet, and they're going to be disappointed in this decision, and they're not going to understand it. And I mean, it's not forever. Like I wouldn't just go do that forever, but I feel in my heart like this is the right time. This is the right moment, the right stage in my journey to go do this thing, even though it's going to disappoint some people. It's right for me, which then allows me to do my service, my seva, my co-creating this yoga community and serving all of you. So that's the thing I'm grateful for. That's the thing that uh, I saw Sue's comment, as long as you don't want to punch any of them. I promise. I definitely promise, Sue. I'll keep you posted. Sue, when I'm in India living with all the monks, if I have that urge, I'm going to call you and say, Sue, talk me down away from this. No, um, I've still like jokes aside, I have lots of work to do still. You know it, Hanna. I know it. Like we all have work to do. And I guess I feel so grateful to be in this stage of doing this work. Because there's been other periods of life where just I had to do things I didn't want to do in order to just survive. You know what I mean? In order to just be able to pay the bills, in order to be able to get by. And now it's like everything I'm doing is what I want to do. And maybe it sounds selfish, and maybe it is a bit selfish, but it's like everything I'm doing, I'm choosing to do, and everything I'm not doing, I've chosen not to do. And there's probably some selfishness there, but I feel like the reason isn't for me to, it isn't like to make my body look better or to make my bank account bigger or to make me more famous or some silly things like that. It's to become a better person so I can help more people. And that wasn't me 10 or 15 years ago, but that's where I'm at now.
No, that wasn't you 3 years ago. So
what are you laughing at, Saga? Yeah, I saw that was an instant laugh. No, that's true. And as much as I'm like so pleased with where I'm at now, I have so far to go. You know it, Hanna. And so 3 years from now, you'll joke and be like, 3 years ago, da 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 da. This is how you were, but at least we're heading in the right direction.
you are. Speak for
I
yourself.
am. I am.
No, that's great. That's really, really deep and insightful and really great to hear. Like I'm happy for you that you have that because I know it's always been a bit tricky for you to balance um what like the outside world, what role it has in your life and in your decision making and your behavior. So that sounds like kind of like liberating for you that you have that.
So liberating. And it's like, again, choosing what we focus on. Like when I was talking to my therapist last week, actually, I think this was 2 sessions ago. Oh my God, therapy is so good. It's like what does Sarah Beth say? It's like the superpower. It's her superpower. Um, but she helped me with a perspective. Maybe I shared this before, but I'll just share it again. Where I would come down in the morning, me and Brandon come down with our yoga mats, 4 a.m., already showered, brushed teeth, ready to go. And I was feeling a little bit self-righteous because I'm like, here I am. I'm up early doing the program, feeling amazing, have all this energy. Some of the yogis, some of the devotees are still sleeping. What are you doing here? Why did you come here to this ashram living? I'd be thinking. So my therapist helped me shift the perspective of rather like just feel so much gratitude that Krishna, divinity, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, has given me at this stage of life, because I didn't always have it, has given me this ability, this energy in the morning, this energy to wake up early every single day and to do these things. And so to feel gratitude about the things versus the focusing on what other people are doing or not doing. And that shifts everything.
That is a huge shift in, and such a simple one to make, really, right? Doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to go to therapy for 15 years or change who you are or anything. Just a slight shift in your perception. That is amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think jumping back to the conversation we had earlier about like us and all the things that are happening, what I think that also makes our relationship possible is that we are both in therapy. We both have really good therapists. So we are able to kind of work on our things, individually, and navigate the world and learn about ourselves in the world. And then when we come together, it seems like we have more bandwidth for each other, so we're less snappy. And it seems like from what you shared right now as well, like the therapy enables you to access the world in a new way. Like that's the power of really good therapy. I think it shifts how what you have access to in yourself as you live in the world. And I think that's exciting, you
It's
know.
so exciting.
Mm.
It's
And it's
so
beautiful to
exciting.
see too. And it's really nice how what I want to acknowledge you for is that you're so transparent and like willing to share about this process, for yourself. That's
Yeah.
really, really great.
And I think, like you said earlier, I feel like this is how I learned. This is my application of it, right? Because it's like I had the conversation with my therapist, and then I'm maybe feeling some gratitude or some good vibes in myself, but then somehow sharing it with you, sharing it with all the yogis here, is how it helps me understand it better, and this is what helps integrate it. So it's like, yeah, I want to. I want to be an open book. I mean, not that like that seems like a silly title or a silly phrase, but I guess I want to just yeah, I want to be in integrity. I want to I want to do what I say what I do, and just be transparent. The way that we were in our conversation, and just practice that in all areas of life.
Yeah, and I think as a partner in a conversation like this, I think what has helped me a lot is also to remember and learn about what the masculine world is about. Like I was thinking about this yesterday. I don't know if I've shared this in the past, but like how in the 1800 or 1700, we treated children as if they were like mini adults. And then now we've learned like psychology, how important it is to understand that they're at this stage and like how precious this time is and how we can meet children with more tools than kind of forcing, like they would teach children how to drink wine and smoke cigarettes because that's what adults did, like that was how the paradigm was. But then now we have psychology and we learned about the psyche and the evolution and development. And so we don't do that anymore. The same thing I think is happening like with women. There was a big, long time, I think only until recently, did we expect women to be like a little bit weaker men. And so same as men, but just a little less strong or whatever. And then we're trying to mold women into what's normal in terms of what a male is. But why is that a measure? So now we're kind of, I think, separating from that as well and seeing women as their own entity with their own depth and capacity and way of being that doesn't need to be compared to children or men. Excuse
Mhm.
me if this is like a simplifying this, but like just in theory. And now it's like when we learn about the differences between how the male system works and the female system works, then we can communicate better. And so when I have a conflict with you or deal with you in any way, I kind of noticed that I have more humility in meeting you because I think that, like, I no longer assume that guys are like this and they're supposed to be like that and da 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 da. Like, somehow me learning more and more about how also men are vulnerable as are women in their own way, like that to me seems like another inquiry, like a different universe that I'm learning about through you and through reading. And then that makes more space for me and less assumptions when I meet you. So my foundational attitude towards you and all men kind of changes with more compassion and flexibility, because that is only right and kind and compassionate and fascinating, you know?
Mm.
So kind of like leaving the old paradigms and looking at what is actually expansive, that expands us and gives us more tools and space and compassion to deal with each other, you know? And then we
Right.
receive each other differently.
Yeah, that's great. All that from a gratitude question. I love it. So much wisdom. Do we sneak in one more?
Yes. One more hot seat question. You know, now you shared a lot about what we've been recently, like, it's, I didn't know about you and Mel having that conversation. Like, you're in a really good space right now with regards to like your motivation, and not just with Mel, but like us having that conversation. And then we're looking ahead what's next for Happy Jack Yoga. And so what is it that motivates you to work so hard, like at the core of
Mm,
it?
it's a good question. I think that what it used to be, the answer, like in my 20s, my teens, when I was studying engineering and when I was working at John Deere, I wasn't I wasn't my work ethic wasn't coming from a good place, I would say. I was trying to prove myself. I was trying to prove to my dad that I was good enough. Or I was trying to get ahead in life so I could, make enough money to survive or to do well in life. So I think that's where it started. I think that's where I developed the work ethic, was to like prove myself. There probably is some element of that still there, although I don't feel like that's the driving force. I feel like now, like the driving force is really just wanting to be a part of something and to create something and to be a part of something that's meaningful. And yeah, I do want it to be successful. I don't want it to fall apart. I don't want it to end. So I want it to grow. I want it to be sustainable. And I don't like there's no, I guess I used to set like goals, stretch goals, and this and that. I'm not so much set on like, oh, I want to get to, grow to this level or something like that, but more just be able to do what it is that I love, to save a little bit, of my paycheck, to put a little bit back into growing what we do, to be able to do some of the little things that I want to do and buy some healthy organic nutrition, really like live quite simply. Um, but I guess to align everything, to be able to align my studies, my work, my practices all together. I guess that's what I guess what motivates me now is to just become, really what's motivating me is to become a better person. I'm like, all these practices are, and conversations, meaningful conversations like this, are making me aware of areas where I'm falling short, where I'm not as good as I could be, where I'm not as integrity as I could be. And it's like it's a wake up call, that conversation on Sunday. It's like, even though I'm doing so much that I'm really pleased with, you're like, Jack Blake, be honest with yourself. Are you fully in integrity? Can you take ownership for these things from the past? For some of these things, how sometimes they show up now? Can you fully take ownership? And it was a bit of a punch to the like, oh, because of course I want to defend myself for all the good that I'm doing. But that's not the question. That's not the conversation. Put all the good aside and let's look at those few small areas that I am falling short. And it's like that's where I want to work on. So I guess that's where I'm motivated. That's why I'm going to India. I'm not going there to do a marketing photo shoot. I probably won't take any photos. Like I'm going there to do the inner work. I'm going there to become better. And hopefully that's going to allow me to help other people. And it's going to allow me to be more kind to my first ex-wife, Mel, and my second ex-wife, best friend, Hanna, and everybody else in my life, all these other cool relationships. So that's that's what motivates me now.
That's beautiful. And we do require some photos from India because we want to see what's up. And and that's really beautiful. And in that way, it seems to me that bhakti yoga really works for you
Mhm.
in a miraculous way. Wouldn't you agree? Like it's been kind of
Yeah.
the gateway to this type of growth for you.
Yeah.
Happens to be the vehicle that helps you do that.
Totally. Yeah. And exactly. And even though I haven't totally figured it out, and Brandon and I talking this morning, it's still don't fully understand everything about the philosophy, but it's like the
Yeah.
essence of what this is about. This, becoming a better person, this consciousness, this feels right and it's working. That's the ticket right there. It's working.
It
Um,
for sure is. I can
yeah.
see that. I can feel that.
Oh yes. Look out. Look
Thank
out.
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
thank you
thank
for
you
the
for
question.
doing it. Thank you for being generous about it and open-hearted and transparent and willing, because that's all it takes at the end of the day. The
Yeah.
willingness.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody here with us navigating through that technical difficulty midway. Hopefully, Hanna and our technical team are going to figure out how to put those two pieces together. But then we
Yeah.
got a big next week. Next week is Yoga for Mental Health, March 25th through 29th. That's like one of our most powerful courses and important ones. If you want details, send us an email, info@happyjackyoga.com. And my friends, make it an amazing rest of the day. Namaste.
Namaste, friends. Thank you.